GTM engineering role did not exist 5 years back, and yet, if we look at the statistics in the last year from May 2025 to May 2026, it has seen a growth of 229%. I'm talking about the US market in the B2B tech SaaS space. Why is it so? And where does this whole notion of go-to-market engineering is coming from? Where does GTM fit in the entire universe of marketing? What does this mean from a company's perspective versus a practitioner's perspective? How does it adapt when it comes to startups, to scale-ups, to enterprises? We'll try to discuss all of that in this video. Hi everyone, I am Jayesh. I am a GTM and growth practitioner. I've been working in this space for almost 4 to 5 years and predominantly in the US market. When you think of marketing, if you are not into marketing, the very common notions are advertisements, campaigns, LinkedIn posts, Google ads, YouTube, and the KPIs are CPC, CTRs, conversion rates, all of this, right? This is just one part of it. If we were to take a step back and figure out what are the core pillars of marketing, I would define them in 3 verticals. One is brand, which is who you are as a company. How are you positioning yourselves? What is your category? Are you fitting into a particular category or are you creating a new one? The second one is demand, which is about creating awareness. Whether you are demand generating or you are demand capturing, it is about understanding what the market wants and creating awareness around it. And then the third thing is go to market. GTM is that system that connects the right buyer at the right moment on the right channels. These are very high level definitions. A lot of things are the undercurrents of this. GTM sits at the intersections of product, sales and marketing, and it doesn't incline to any one of them in particular. It sits exactly at the intersection of these 3, irrespective of the kind of industry or the type of company you are. Now let's try and understand where does this come from. So we won't go too back in history. In 2011, Sean Ellis sort of formalized the concept of growth hacking. That was the buzzword back then. What did it mean? That growth is not a marketing problem but an engineering problem. And he said that if you keep on running experiments, find the levers and scale what's been working, you have your solution. And that did work. But the major constraint was it was focused towards products. It was more of a product strategy. The next vertical that came in was RevOps, which was revenue operations. How do you engineer the sales and marketing infra? You have CRM at the center as a single source of truth, and then you have different channels integrating with it. You have the data coming through, you have lead attribution, you have lead sequencing. Basically, you are optimizing and creating an efficient marketing operational ecosystem. Now, what was missing in these 2 was how do you strategize? How do you bring all of this together? And ultimately, how do you find that answer of having the right people getting the right message at the right time on the right channels? That is where GTM was born. Before AI, just when GTM was picking up, it required a team or a core team of marketing operations, content or product marketing, SDRs, and data analysts as the core team. What happened with AI or generative AI is that these teams started getting compressed. Now, one person with the right judgment and right context, that's very important, was able to execute all these 5 different roles. And that role is GTM. Now, depending on the stage of your current company, you have different starting points. For example, in my role, I had to start from ICP building. I'm sharing a template below which has all the right questions to help you formalize your ICP. AI won't do that. You will have to do it yourself. If you want me to create a separate video, I'll do that on ICP formalization, but I have an Excel sheet with a detailed example below. You can have a look. It's pretty straightforward. Now, once you define the ICP, you need to capture signals from your TAM, which we discussed in the earlier video. Once signals are detected, the messages would need personalization, hyper-personalization if you're going after each individual buyer. The content needs to be modified, the CRM needs to be automated, and all of this is now being able to be handled by AI. The execution part is flawless. If the task is binary, if it doesn't require judgment, if it doesn't require a lot of complicated context, AI is absolutely great. You do not have decision fatigue, you do not have any time limit, right? These are all the benefits. But what you need to understand is, as a GTM engineer, your role is to make sure that the workflows you are designing is taking all the guardrails and checkpoints into consideration. The output that is coming is being validated by you. This is where human in the loop aspect comes. You start with low value, high volume tasks, optimize it, and then eventually move up the ladder. That's the goal. That's how you scale. Now, from a company's perspective, why do they need GTM engineers? Because companies who come up with great innovations, great products, need to reach market as fast as possible. There is a time and resource constraint that's been growing exponentially. This is exactly why when you are starting up, you start up with demand capturing and not demand generation. And to capture demand, you need to set up an ecosystem or a workflow that is extremely hyper personalized. And that judgment and context will come from a GTM engineer. So companies typically expect the go-to-market personnel to solve these three main questions. First, how do we find the right buyers at scale? That means, how do we move from TAM to SOM at scale? Second, how do we know or how do we capture the buying signals? Third, how do we reach the buyers before the competitors? Now, for me as a GTM engineer, I would say that this role is still evolving. I am still learning every single day. I'm interacting with people who are at different stages of their growth. Someone who hasn't defined who their buyers are will have a different motion versus someone who has identified their buyers and need to reach them at scale. Both of them will have different motions, right? To figure that out, you need a context layer, and that context layer lies with the human. You have plenty of tools to execute these tasks for you. For example, you can use Clay, you can use Apollo, you can use Claude Code to build them. But what to build is something that you need to learn day in and day out. This is why GTM roles are highly paid and they're very critical for any business's survival and growth, of course. So, well, I think I have given you quite a bit of context of what this role is, and how is it going to look after 5 years is something we're all going to see. Now, the reason why I'm saying this is still evolving is because there is not enough content around it. And if you believe this channel is going to add any value to you, consider subscribing, liking or disliking, but a comment with your thoughts would go a long way. And see you in the next one.